Fear comes in two forms. A tangible fear of something right in front of you that you can touch and feel, and the intangible fear of something you can't touch, properly describe, or even understand. I liken the intangible fear of the unknown as the greater evil of the two. For a physically direct fear can be touched, evaded, and possibly presented as conquerable. However, a fear that resides in the mind as a mere phantasm truly challenges the sanity threshold of the individual as a whole, as once the human mind begins to race, the imagination begets horrors beyond their wildest nightmares. Throughout history, humans have always feared the unknown. A monster under the bed or in the closet, impending wars, differing ethnic origins, ideological beliefs, and religious practices. We, as humans, fear what we don't understand. Not all, no, not all. For some are strong enough to overcome our base instincts, acting on kindness and logic rather than impulses and emotion. But the majority of the masses flock together to avoid being singled out. Those who give in to their fear mask their insecurity with an outward projection of hatred and mistreatment, for it isn't any of the masses whom suffer, but the minority, those select few unknown, the not so normal, but instead different. Do you know what it's like to be different? To be shunned, beaten, bullied, and berated? Well, Senua knows what that's like, and by the end of this video, hopefully, you will too. So let's begin. Just you and me. Today's biased gaming narrative is that of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade in itself is a dark fantasy, action-adventure, hack-and-slash puzzle game that tells the story of a young Celtic Pict warrior woman named Senua, as she battles her mind, memories, and the duality of man in a quest to rescue and resurrect her dead lover from Hela, the Norse goddess of death. The main character Senua's archetype is based off of the warrior Aes Sedai Queen Boudica, who led a failed charge against the Roman Empire in AD 60, with Senua's name coming from the Celtic goddess Senua. Released on August 8th, 2017, Hellblade was developed and published by gaming studio Ninja Theory, the makers of unique in concept and some in gameplay but poorly received games such as Heavenly Sword, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West, and Kung Fu Chaos. Ninja Theory would be bought out several times as well as buy back its own rights due to its declining game sales from the early 2000s and 2010s before finally settling on contractual projects and delegating AAA indie development to a small team of 20 people for Hellblade's creation. Prioritizing quality over quantity was the studio's new mission and involved extensive research into the best graphical and audio quality they could muster, as well as enlisting the aid of neuroscientists and those experiencing it in order to simulate psychosis, a mental health condition that involves an individual losing touch with reality while sometimes hearing or seeing things that aren't there. The very same condition that the main protagonist of our biased Hellblade narrative, Senua, currently experiences. The gameplay and mechanics of Hellblade center heavily around tangible and intangible audio and visual cues subtly placed throughout Senua's environment. In order to progress through Hell and eventually reach and defeat Hela on her quest, Senua must focus her perspective to find runes to shed further light on the legends of the Northmen and how they relate to Senua's past, as well as finding discoverable pathways unique to her cursed point of view in order to advance her present.
Don't trust your eyes. Find another way to see the truth.
As her psychosis often causes her to question her surroundings, Senua receives almost heightened senses and abilities to combat it. She's able to hone in on the quietest of sounds, pick up on scents undetectable by others, and possesses explosive athletic ability, vast amounts of stamina, and nigh perfect photographic memory. Despite her potential, this journey is anything but yielding, as Hellblade utilizes a permanent death property in the form of a rot-like curse that starts at her arm and ascends to her head, the seat of the soul. Senua's curse is a ticking timer that talks down every time she fails. With each failure, the rotting curse grows stronger and moves closer to her brain, and once it finally reaches its destination, Senua's journey is over, resulting in the player losing the entirety of their game progress. Tack that on to a combat system against demented versions of Northmen, whom Senua must evade, parry, and attack with a mix of light and heavy swings from her trusty sword, and we're given rise to the gameplay of Hellblade. We've come this far, and now there's no turning back. Let's begin our story, shall we? The story of Hellblade begins with an outwardly encroaching shot of a boat with a woman in it, paddling across a body of water onwards on the road to Helheim in order to save the soul of her dead lover Dillion, played by Oliver Walker, from the goddess Hela. This is the moment where we are first introduced to Senua, played by Melina Jurgens, and her self-imposed curse, a dysfunctional set of voices inside of her head.
What is she doing? Why is she doing this?
They're watching.
Why doesn't she know coming? She's doing this for him.
The set that contains several voices all speaking intrusively at once, she calls Furies. These Furies seemingly amplify and project Senua's intrusive thoughts outwards for the player to hear. Then lies a duo of distinct voices. The first of the two, a lonesome one, soft-spoken yet loud, played by Chippo Chung.
It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her.
The narrator serves as a voice of clarity and reason, as well as providing background information about Senua that she herself is unable to properly express. The second of the two, known as the Darkness, played by Stephen Hartley.
I will never let you go. You can't get rid of me. I am your shadow.
Is the antithesis of the narrator, as it constantly challenges, belittles, and calls into question Senua's memory, sanity, and resolve throughout her story. At Senua's side is her blade, a mirror, and Dillion's severed head, as it is said that the head serves as a vessel for the soul. Senua, scared, insecure, and deterred by the voices and her darkness, pushes on, led by her memories of the stories of her deceased teacher, Druth, played by Nicholas Bolton.
For my tales of the Northmen, they call me Druth.
A man formerly enslaved by the Northmen and knowledgeable of their mythology, whom she met during a year-long self-imposed exile in the woods. Senua's first blockades before entering Hell reside in the form of two gods.
Valravn, ancestor of the seers and master of ravens.
Surt, the fire giant, has answered.
Throughout history, there are several accounts of Valravn, but the most notable folklore in relation to the depiction in Hellblade, existing first as a raven whom feasts on the bodies of the slain, improperly put to rest, before transforming into what is called a Valravn, thus performing despicable acts and leading people astray within the forest they dwell. Using the mark of Valravn, Senua solves many perspective-altering puzzles using her sight, for things are not always as they seem for our heroine. After focusing his mark, Senua is able to follow the creature back to its nest before finally facing it in battle. Seeing him for what he truly is, she blames Valravn for leading her astray during her year-long exile in the woods, as Senua's memories allude to a terrible fate that may have befallen her lover Dillion and his village during her time away.
Focus! Focus!
I see you now. You led me to the wilds. You trapped me there. I never beat you in the wilds, did I? It was an illusion. But not this time!
After Valravn falls, Senua must enter Surt's domain and face off against terrifying flames and the screams of the dead as she uses his mark in order to solve more runic puzzles. Whereas sight allowed for Senua to succeed in the battle against Valravn, it is sound and the subconscious fear of being burnt alive that leads Senua closer and closer to her next test, Surt. Surt is a giant from the land of Muspel. He is whom the Northmen devote much of their killings and raiding to as a way to praise the brutal god.
Spill the blood of Surt. Take his mark, and I will cheat you from and forever be in your debt.
You destroyed everything, everyone, but not me. Fight me now!
The fight begins with the foe rising from his throne to engage in battle with Senua. The fiery behemoth proves to be a physical challenge for Senua as his power is almost overwhelming. Focusing her keen reflexes, swordsmanship, and mind allows Senua to beat yet another fearsome foe. With both Norse gods dead, Senua advances to and opens the gates to cross the bridge into Helheim.
The gate is opening. I'm sorry. I can't watch this.
What are you doing? You're showing weakness. You're not a warrior. You're a disgrace. The gods will punish you for this. Pick up the sword. Pick it up. Fight the darkness. Fight it. Get up. Get up. Get up and fight.
Senua is interrupted as Hela advances upon her. She is attacked and left wounded. She is then guided by Druth and a vision of an illuminated humanoid whom she believes is Dillion. The light guides her to a large tree where she must undergo 4 trials: the labyrinth, swamp, tower, and blindness trials, which consist of testing Senua's mind, body, and soul. In completing them, she is granted the god-killing sword, Gram, in order to finally best Hela. Senua relives her previously blocked out past through her hallucinations throughout her quest, learning that her mother, Galena, her village's healer, played by Ellie Piercy, bore the same curse Senua believes she has, except Galena thought of it as being gifted.
Senua, you have the sight.
Just like I do.
Did you see her? That was her mother, Galena. She was a priestess, a healer. She taught Senua to see the weave that binds the world together. And it was beautiful. She misses her so much.
Senua's memories resurface as she remembers her zealously religious father burned her mother alive, causing her psychosis to worsen at a young age and cause Senua to subconsciously create a mental block within her mind.
Mother! Don't be like this. Turn away, Senua! Turn away, Senua!
You see it, Senua.
I remember it clearly now.
She has nothing to fear anymore. The gods have saved your mother. Through my hand.
You killed her.
It is the will of the gods.
Fuck the gods! You did this to her! Why?
Defy the gods like your mother, and the darkness will come for you too. You understand, Senua?
I do understand.
You cursed me with your own madness. I was just a child. You created this darkness! You created this darkness so you could hide behind it!
With her mother gone and no one to protect her, a young Senua's fate was left in the hands of her father Zinbel, whom manipulated Senua growing up into thinking she was cursed, full of darkness, while abusing her emotionally and physically, isolating her from the rest of the world before she met her lover Dillion. Dillion vowed to teach Senua how to be and love herself, rather than believe she was cursed. Senua would leave for Dillion's village to be with him despite her father's furious disapproval. The two would fall in love shortly before a plague ravished many of the residents of the man's village. Senua felt she was to be blamed, resulting in her year-long self-exile.
Senua! What happened?
They're blaming me for the plague. They say that I'm cursed. What if they're right?
How would they know such a thing? Are they gods? None of us are. Let them see who you really are like I have. We can't fight this together, side by side. We always do.
This is my battle. I have to face it alone, away from here.
Where will you go?
I don't know.
After returning, thinking her darkness was cured, Senua would bear witness to the aftermath of the plague survivors murdered by raiders from the north, whom had performed a blood eagle on her beloved Dillion, sacrificing him to their gods. This traumatic moment, combined with Druth's stories, are what prompted Senua to begin her journey in the first place.
In this waking nightmare, where all dreams come true, you searched for control, a way to pull through. When you were in love, you left him in tears, to smother your furies and banish your fears. But in darkness they came. Through stormy black seas they raided these shores. Do you still hear his screams? And now that you're home, he's so far away. They've taken his soul. To these gods you cannot pray. They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through his darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart. You fought for love unspoilt by your darkness within. You fought for your dreams. Now there's no way to win. In the head of his corpse lies the seat of his soul. So you must carry his vessel to bring him back home.
Back to the present, Senua, knowing her darkness is fueled by the years of abuse from her father, wades through the sea of corpses and defeats the guardian of Helheim's gates, Garm, before temporarily trapping her voices, the Furies, within a magic mirror. Senua now believes herself ready to finally face off against the goddess of death, Hela. Hela then summons a never-ending onslaught, comprised of all of the enemies Senua has slain throughout her blood and horror-soaked quest in order to save Dillion's soul. Senua, only human, eventually finds herself overwhelmed by the amalgamation of foes before trying to bargain with Hela.
I'll give you my life if you release it. But if you won't, you will have to kill me. Because I've got nothing left. And you will have no power over me.
The setting of hell then begins to disappear before our very eyes as Hela stabs a defeated, broken, and beaten Senua with the god-killing sword, Gram, leaving us to Senua's curled-up corpse. During her final, pleading moments of life, Senua remembers Dillion teaching her the importance of love, loss, and acceptance.
When our time comes, we must look death in the eye and embrace it as a friend. Only then can we let go of our fear. And emerge from our darkness.
While dropping Dillion's head into a bottomless cavern with the camera fading away before returning back to the goddess standing there. As the camera returns to its former spot, it's no longer Hela standing there atop the abyss, but Senua, with Hela's deceased form lying upon the ground. It seems as though Senua has come to terms with the knowledge that it was impossible to bring Dillion back, and that her friend and mentor Druth's mythological stories of the Northmen were simply that, mythological stories. Yes, mythological stories where knowledge and wisdom could be drawn from. Mythological stories where she escaped to from her own dark reality. Mythological stories that she relied on to live further, to continue on for the sake of another and not herself. But mythological stories, nevertheless. I believe that Senua has accepted in her heart that she is not responsible for Dillion and those of his villages, her own mother, nor anyone else's deaths. The rot is then subsequently seen leaving Senua's arm, whilst her injuries atop the rest of her body remain, as do the Furies. Senua's physical and mental state have been strengthened, her psyche intact, complete, and for the moment, in sync. I believe Senua has finally accepted the voices and all that she's been through as part of what makes her, her. Senua gives one last speech, prompting us, the player, to follow her as there is another story to tell, one in which I hope to hear. Thank you all so very much for watching. Hellblade has climbed itself up the list as one of my personal favorite psychological action-adventure horror games since its release. The story told in Senua's Sacrifice is something very familiar among the genre, while still being refreshing. A battle the protagonist is fighting that seemingly takes place both mentally and physically, with the protagonist focused on saving a loved one, while fixated on their own sins, guilt, and repressed memories that appear to be more than simply skin deep. The way Ninja Theory handled this title was nothing less than exceptional in my opinion. For them to take a chance on something as specific, delicate, and largely misrepresented in games as mental health, psychosis to be specific, is nothing short of a giant leap and turn of a new leaf, and hell, a fresh start I feel the company needed after so many ups and downs in game production. I find it incredible the time and research placed into this project. A look behind the scenes of this project can be glimpsed in the 24-minute production, Hellblade, Senua's Psychosis. A glimpse of the fantastic work done with inexpensive Amazon and IKEA equipment, used alongside German freelance photographer and video editor Melina Jurgens, initially being a stand-in for Senua until an actress was cast. Melina, whom had never done voice acting or motion capture work before, was seen as the perfect fit and chosen to be the final product of Senua, reliving her own internal pain in order to portray the gut-wrenching scenes in Hellblade where we see Senua during her absolute worst at times. Hellblade director Tamim Antoiniades, alongside the 20 developers it took to make this game, seeking the aid of Professor Paul Fletcher, a neuroscientist and psychosis expert, alongside writer and psychologist Professor Charles Fernau, in better understanding the results of those living with possible hallucinations of the more extreme cases of psychosis, is just breathtaking. Placed into contact by the Wellcome Trust Recovery College, a health facility and college for those suffering not from the symptoms of psychosis, but the results of the isolation and abuse that may come from being viewed as different by society. What with the hallucinations being seen and heard more realistically through binaural 3D audio rigs with true-to-form spacing in the game, making we, the player, feel that much more immersed. I hope now you're seeing why I chose to do a biased narrative on this beauty of a game today. I want it known that I love this game for its portrayal of psychosis, of pain, of suffering, and its message of acceptance. Facing things no matter how scary they may seem, that it takes time to overcome that tangible and intangible fear of the unknown, that you must try to continue on no matter how bad things may get. For all the darkness there appears to be in the world, there is also light, and it may be just beyond the horizon. So please, please continue on. Hopefully by now you know what it's like to be different, to be shunned, beaten, bullied, and berated. Hopefully you understand, and hopefully you are more aware and mindful of what others may go through, and know that an action of both darkness and light go a long way in others' lives. Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for watching.